Hi, welcome to another episode of Nature Pal Chats, a program that encourages nature study and learning about God's creation. I'm Andy Gould.
I'm Shannon Kelly.
And I'm Christy Cox. Welcome. We are so happy to have you here with us today while we discuss mother culture. And I think before we get started, Andy has a really great quote from Charlotte Mason that she wants to share on the topic.
Yes, Charlotte Mason says in her book, School Education, if mothers could learn to do for themselves what they do for their children, we should have happier households. Let the mother go out to play.
That is so true. And here at Nature Pal Exchange, we are a nature company, but the reason why we are touching upon mother culture today is because Nature Pal Exchange just hosted our very first mother culture exchange, which was just for the moms only, as a way to encourage each other. So we thought we all need encouragement as we teach and instruct our children and pour ourselves into our family. So we thought this would be a great topic to discuss today. And we're going to split it up into three categories: physical, spiritual, and mental. And these could, I guess, it encompasses so much. I think I have a quote by Billy Graham, and he says, mothers should cultivate their souls, that in turn they may cultivate the souls of our children. Every day we wake up and we pour so much of ourselves into our family that it's important that we take time for ourselves so that we can continually serve and love our family with a happy heart. So let's talk about physical real quick, mother culture in a physical sense. I guess, Andy, do you want to share what that means to you?
I think it's really easy for us to get a hold of that because we can see things and we can identify with an activity or a physical thing. Charlotte Mason goes on to talk about mothers going out, taking a nature walk, going to a museum to look at art, taking a book to bed without the children. We can do those things. For myself, I love to crochet. It's something that I've done since I was a little girl. I've been crocheting for over 25 years, and it's something that I find a lot of joy in, and it relaxes me. So it's something that I can do with my children, but I can also do it on my own.
Yes, I love that because I actually originally started out sewing. But sewing was something where during that season of life that I was in, I really didn't have the time to commit to large projects. So I switched over to crocheting because it was something that I could carry with me while my children are at music lessons, or even, if we're at the park and they're running around and playing and I had some time to invest in a project for myself. So yeah, finding something physical that we could take with us and find little pockets of time is so important. Shannon has a fairly young baby, so you're in a whole other season of life. How do you find time to invest physically into your?
Well, I don't do a whole lot of mother culture right now, but for me, like if I can go to a coffee shop and just get a coffee, or even drive through, and I'm not by myself, but drive through, get a coffee and go to the beach. We live fairly close to the beach. We have one that has swings and a slide near us. So if I can go there and have a cup of coffee of my own, or we stop and grab donuts or something like that, I'm like, it's really good for me, my soul, just to be by the ocean and drinking my coffee while my kids play. I really enjoy that. And I also,
go ahead.
I was going to say, I also like crafting, but that's more like once my kids go to bed at night, and I can have some time by myself.
Yeah. And I think if we can find ways to get our children set up, you can go to the beach and they can go off and play and you can sit for a few minutes. And sometimes we do need to find just those few minutes that we can just get a breather and take a rest for ourselves. But I think it's important to find ways to take bigger chunks of time, whether you have to set up a babysitter or a family member or a friend can take your children, to be away from everyone and to find that time by yourself to just refresh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think one of the most important things is we need to learn to give ourselves grace.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I fall into it myself, but not to compare ourselves, because those two things rob us of our joy. And it's easy, especially if you're in a difficult season of life where you're not getting much sleep, and you have toddlers running around and pulling you in so many different directions. Just to where you feel exhausted and you compare, well, look what I saw on Instagram. This mother gets to do that or gets to do this. I think that it's so important that we just give ourselves grace and remind ourselves that this is just a season, and it'll pass, and we'll be in the next season, and we'll have more time as our children grow and get older. So I think also too, physical, it's important that we invest in our physical health, whether that's, walking, or maybe a quick exercise video, or just whatever you could find, because we need to exert ourselves and invest in our health. So I think that's another really important aspect, because also our children will see that and they'll be encouraged by that as well. So
yeah, I think when I often send my children outside and go play. You've got some energy to get out of you. Go outside, run around, release all of those, everything that need to be out of you right now. But I need to get out there sometimes with them too. And I think when I do make it a point to go out, even if we're just walking around our yard and looking at the birds that are visiting, trying to find bird nest, or looking at the mushrooms that are growing, different things that we're exploring in our yard, that physical act of walking around, it does release something different than when you are just inside doing housework and just going from one task to the next. You need that physical act of getting out and being active.
I think it's the sunshine. Like when I can walk outside and just be in the sunshine, like if I'm getting stressed out, I just think, why don't I just walk outside? Just walk outside, take a few deep breaths, and be in the sunshine for a few minutes. And it helps to change perspective.
Yeah. I think it's amazing that we get that vitamin D that God knew we're going to need the sunshine, and he put it out there, and it's just sitting there for us.
Yes. And I think it changes all of our attitudes. My children as well, when we come in and we're all happy and ready to tackle our next task. And sometimes it takes walking away from the messes. Like, my sink is full of dishes. I need to do this. I need to do that. My list is so long, but sometimes you just have to say, it'll wait. I need to take care of me for a few minutes.
The dishes will be there when you get back. They're not going anywhere.
Exactly. So, the next category is spiritual. And this is something that I think is very personal, and it needs to be, I don't think anyone could really tell you how to apply mother culture to this area. That's between you and God and what you need. But I know for myself, I love to wake up really early when my house is quiet, nobody is awake yet. I brew some coffee, I light some candles, and I just open up the word, and I just prepare my heart for the day. Sometimes I'll walk through the main level of my house and just pray that my home would be filled with peace and with joy and love. And so for me, I invest spiritually, especially in the morning. I love that time. I feel so close with God during that time. And it helps me to start my day in a good place with a good attitude. So how about you guys? Andy, do you have anything?
I was talking with a friend the other day about older mothers who are in a different season of life than you are, and that they're often telling you, oh, you need to start your day. You need to start your day. But when you have little children, it's really hard to do that because they hear you and they wake up. And I'm in a smaller house, and so when I swear, my children can hear my eyelids open in the morning. So it's really hard for me to find that time first thing in the morning before they wake up, because I can't wake up early enough to wake up before them. I would just keep setting my alarm earlier, and they would just keep getting up earlier. So you really have to take a step back. And like you were saying, Christy, you can't compare yourself to someone else. You have to take that advice from someone with a grain of salt, and you have to take it and look at your life, look at where your children are, where your family is, where you are, and figure out, how does this work out for me? So right now, part of my spiritual time is when we are doing our school time, that I'm reading through the Psalms with my children. And I can go back later and I can do some more reading if I want to. I can read other books on my own time. But that's one thing that I'm doing partly for example to them, to show them that this is how we do it. We read through the Bible, and we talk about what God is speaking to our hearts when we read these words. But for myself right now in my stage of life, that's where I'm getting a chunk of my time with God, is that I'm just right there with my children.
You just reminded me of something. I don't know where I heard it from or where I read it, but it was years ago. And it was a mother who was in the season to where she had little babies, toddlers, and she was pulled in so many different directions. And she, just like you were saying, she could not wake up early, and she just could not find the time to just pull away. And, what she would do is she would open up her Bible and leave it on the kitchen table. And whenever she had a chance, she would just walk by and she would read one scripture. And I just love that, because it's something that she just did as she was walking by, but she was still feeding herself spiritually. Mm-hmm. So you're right. It's going to look so different. And we have to adjust. We have to go with the flow of life. But Shannon, what do you have to share?
Well, I'm in that time of life right now where I have a almost 3-month-old. So she is waking up at least one time during the night, sometimes twice. So getting up in the morning early for me is not an option right now. I mean, before having her, that would be my favorite, is waking up early before the kids. I would read, and then same with you, have coffee, and it's just so relaxing and set your mind straight for the day. And I went to a Sally Clarkson conference last year, and her daughter was talking about how she always remembered waking up in the morning and coming out of her room and seeing her mom reading the scriptures, and she could smell her coffee, and it was just like a good memory for her. And I just love the thought of that, like my kids coming out and seeing me with the word, reading, and just like that memory of smelling my coffee, like just like a good memory for them. But it's also good for my soul. But for right now, I mostly do my reading while I'm nursing. So that's the main time I sit down, because other than that, I'm up cleaning, chasing after my toddler, or doing school. So when I have to nurse my baby, I sit down and I read. So my whole family, we're reading on our own through Genesis. So we're all reading the same book, but we're doing it at our own time. So my children have their quiet time in the morning when they wake up, and then I have mine usually when I'm feeding the baby at some point. But that's, for me, I notice when I am in the scriptures consistently every day, there is a huge difference in my demeanor and how I treat everyone else, how my attitude is for the day. Just my mind, I'm hiding God's word in my heart, and it's continuously on my mind. I mean, even if when I do, I snap or I have a bad attitude, it's like my mind immediately goes back to the things I've been reading and causing me to think through them and change my attitude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I love what you said, because, our children are watching. And we may not think that because they're running past us in a blur, but they're seeing what we're doing and they're soaking it in. I heard a pastor say one time, he was speaking about his mother, and he was saying that he could never remember a time where she just didn't have her Bible close to her or in her hands. And I think about our culture today and what's in our hands most of our time. But our telephone, our cell phone, like we're so attached to it today. And I found that to be so convicting because it's like, I don't want my children to remember, oh, my mother always had her cell phone in her hand. You know, what a beautiful legacy that his mother left, that she was so close, you know, to her scriptures at all time. And I just love that. So yeah, we're examples to our children spiritually, in every way, good or bad. But in our last category is mental. So this could mean a few different things. So Charlotte Mason talks about having 3 books going, and I have more than that. I have 5 books. I'm really bad. Because I'll see a new book and I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I want, you know, and I'll start reading that. So I have a huge stack going. I should probably shorten that and make it 3. But so we need to not only be investing in our children's education and what they're reading, but also in ourselves. We need to be constantly learning. So how do you incorporate that in your day, Andy, mentally?
I am a fiction reader. I love fiction. So I really try to read something else, whether it's a parenting book or a biography. The biographies I enjoy more because it's more of a story than the parenting books, because I'm like, I just don't want to learn anything else right now. So I think that's partly why when I'm reading, I just want to escape the learning. I just want to do this for fun. So I push myself to do those things. But I also really enjoy watching documentaries and watching PBS shows, just different educational type things like that. So I find them in a couple different ways, but those are my 2 biggest ones.
What about you, Shannon?
Well, my husband and I recently, we had all our books packed away, and we brought out our bookcase and pulled out all our books from the garage. And they're mostly theology books. My husband collected them all before we were married when he was in Bible college. And so I usually am the same way, where I'm reading a little bit of this book, a little bit of that book, and we're both trying now to just be into one book. So we read all the way through that one book before we start another book. Because for me, once I start multiple books, I never go back and finish all of them. And just like start one, get excited about another one, start that one. So for me right now, I've read a lot of mother books. I've read a lot of marriage books, but I want to learn more about theology. Like, I just really, really want to know more about what I believe. I mean, that might sound silly, but I feel like I know what I believe, but I can't explain it really well. And I want to be able to. I want to be prepared in season and out of season. So I'm starting to read more theology books now. I'm very slow. I have to look up words because I don't know what I'm reading through pages and I'm like, I have no idea what they're saying. So I'm like looking up words on my phone, rereading pages, but I really feel like I'm just gaining a better understanding about Christianity. And I love that. I just makes me want to keep going, keep reading.
And I love that you're doing it with your husband. You know, because we need to spur each other on and encourage each other. So that's awesome. But, well, thank you so much for joining us to chat about mother culture. We would love to hear what mother culture looks like to you. You could tag your mother culture photos to our IG at #NPE mother culture. Just to inspire others and to encourage our community. But thanks so much for joining, and we'd love if you would subscribe to our channel. And again, we just thank you guys. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.